Just wait for a few people to jump in and then we will get started. For those of you who have just joined, we're going to get started in a second. I'm just going to give people a few more minutes to join and then we will get going. So I suppose just to cover off some housekeeping while we wait, this webinar is being recorded. So everyone who's registered today will receive a copy of the recording following the session. We have lesson time at the end to make sure that all your questions are answered. So please feel free to use the Q&A feature, which you should see at the bottom of your screen. If you've got any questions, we'll make sure and do our best to get through them depending on how many we get. So I'm just going to give it one more minute and then we will get started. Okay, I think we will get going. So thank you to those who have joined today's webinar, Behind the Switch, Dialog's transition from Newforma to Ideagen Mail Manager. So on today's webinar, we're going to be discussing some of the common frustrations that organizations we speak to experience when it comes to complex project information management tools and why it's increasingly important to make informed decisions about the project management software you implement in your business. I'm then going to hand over to Kenny Thurston, who's going to be majority of the webinar today, you'll be pleased to hear, and I'll introduce him shortly. He's going to be speaking about why Dialog decided to make the switch from Newforma to Mail Manager. And as I mentioned, we're going to have some time at the end to go through questions, so please use the chat or Q&A facility if you have any questions for myself or Kenny. So very quick introductions. My name's Lucy Pryor. I'm the sales director here at Mail Manager. So in the last 5 years, I've been working really closely with companies across all different industries, but especially within the AEC sectors to reduce risk, improve information visibility, save time, and ultimately take back control of project and client correspondence. Now, I'm really excited to be joined today by Kenny, Manager of Technology Experience at Dialog. Now, Kenny's been a leader on the Dialog technology team for over a decade, so he's been there a long time, and throughout his career, he has supported many large-scale projects, including Brookfield Place, New Central Library, and the Arthur J. Child Comprehensive Cancer Centre. So, Kenny, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited to be here today to tell our story.
Excellent. So just before we jump in, I just want to ask everyone who's joined today a couple of questions. So I think, Joe, if you can launch the poll for us now. So the first question is, why have you joined the webinar today? It might be that you're curious to, I guess, hear from industry peers. You might be frustrated with your current document management solution. You might not have a solution in place at all, or you're using Newforma, but not utilizing all its features. Okay, interesting. Just leave that up a couple of seconds. We've got a few more to answer, and then we'll get going. It's quite a mixed spread, but pleased to hear you're on the right webinar. We're going to be covering all these things today. Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing those. So the final question I've got for everyone is, what challenges are you currently facing with your document management tool? Now you can select all that apply. So if we can launch that poll now. This is quite interesting to understand this one. I imagine if you have one, you might have quite a few others, but let's have a look. Okay, so adoption is coming up here. Massive one we hear. It's very challenging, you know, when you're implementing new software to get people to use it. So that's a big problem that we hear with new clients. Okay. Cool. Really interesting things on there. Thank you for doing that. That's interesting. Okay, so we've just seen, document management systems aren't perfect, especially when it comes to your kind of larger enterprise solutions. So I'd like everyone just to think for a quick moment, how much of your document management do you actually use? And then I suppose, secondly, how much do you pay for it? No one needs to share it. Just have a think about it. When we speak to, potential clients of ours, the answer to those questions is, we don't use much of it and we're paying for all of it and it's costly. So if you are just using one part of your document management system, like email management, perhaps, we're kind of questioning, what's the point of keeping it, especially when the feedback from users is, it's clunky and it's not fit for purpose. Oh, sorry, I think my, bear me 2 seconds. I think it's just skipped some slides. There we go. Okay, here we go. So systems like Newforma tend to have that kind of never-ending implementation, and you're always kind of feeling like you're never fully set up. It's never truly adopted across the business, and it becomes a constant job trying to persuade people to use it, which we've seen in the poll there. And that creates a wide range of challenges, like quality management issues, because you've not got people filing in, I suppose, the same way. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. People not filing incoming emails, again, results in that kind of weak email management process. And then, of course, those cash flow issues, because some of these products have a really large annual cost to them. So why are document management systems on the decline? Well, the main trend is the idea of having everything in one system isn't the way people operate anymore. Most companies we talk to originally kind of bought their document management systems to be that all-in-one solution. And what we're seeing now is they're realizing that usage is, as we said, inconsistent. It doesn't promote business agility. It's clunky for users, and they don't like using it. So what we need to, I suppose, start to think about is, what can we do to change this? And when we look at some of the stats, businesses typically use around 20% of their document management system, and that's reflected in the poll we've just done. And when it comes to the cost side of things, despite only using a fraction of the system, most companies are paying for 100% of it. And that large annual payment significantly can impact, cash flow, particularly when you're a smaller business. And then the final point is functionality. Document management systems like Newforma aren't user-friendly. That system was developed by an IT company, whereas Mail Manager was developed by Arup Engineering, who I'm sure some of you on the call would have come across or worked with before, specifically for project-based firms. Now, for most companies, they want something that's cost efficient. They don't want to be paying for what they aren't using. And a huge thing we hear customers say is they want a simple implementation. If anyone on this call has experienced implementing a DMS system in the past, you'll know it can be really time consuming and can take anywhere from 6 months to 18 months to really fully implement it within the business. And then, of course, you've got the challenge of consistency. So there's no point putting in a system where you're kind of heavily reliant on users to actually use the tool. A lot of companies want something that users are going to love to use, that's not going to really impact what they're kind of used to day to day. And I think that's one of the real key things about Mail Manager is implementation takes a couple of hours. It drives consistency by prompting the user. So you're not reliant on them to go, oh, I need to file this and actually do it. And you're using all of it. It does the job it's set out to do effectively, which is to drive consistency when it comes to filing and allow project teams to access all project emails within a few clicks. So that's enough for me. I'm sure you're looking forward to hearing from Kenny about why Dialog chose to move across to Mail Manager. Now, again, please use the Q&A facility if anyone's got any questions for Kenny. So Kenny, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I'm really excited to talk about our story today about how we kind of went exactly this from Newforma, a large scale platform with adoption issues, into using something a lot simpler. for our day-to-day email filing needs and everything else that we do. And oops, there we go, slides. I just want to start real quick just to give everyone a little bit about who Dialog is. So Dialog is a collection of creative, innovative thought leaders, and we're consistently rising up to meet the challenges of the day, from climate change to equity to social well-being. We're an architecture, design, and engineering practice with studios in Canada and the United States. It's a purpose-driven practice that is rooted in design excellence, sustainability, and community well-being. As a leader across disciplines, geographies, and industries since 1960, the practice has been meaningfully improving the well-being of people and ecosystems through the design of the built environment. I'm going to get right into the meat and potatoes of this because I know that's why everybody is here. So I want to start with what we were doing with Newforma. So much like everybody else, it is a very wide platform that use it. We were using search to look through our files to find information. We were using info exchange to transfer information and share larger files out. Tasks and task templates in order to keep track of our what we're doing on our projects. Project team and contacts was hugely important to us, obviously having that database of who we need to contact. And actually, one of the most important things was email filing. When we actually put in Newforma, we had an existing email filing system. It was not great. So Newforma for us was, okay, this is going to be a step up in helping us. But it didn't work out so much in that way. Much like you are here today listening to me talk about this, the adoption of Newforma wasn't great. It was very difficult to roll out a very large platform. The cost to implement and the cost to upkeep was becoming larger and larger for us as a company. And looking through the modules, the ones here on the list that we were using, our most used module was email filing. For obvious purposes, for litigation, for the ability to find that key decision that was made throughout the life cycle of a project. And it was becoming very difficult to justify the cost of using Newforma. The nice thing too is we actually had other solutions for all of the other functions in Newforma, except for email filing. We didn't have a readily available replacement for us to really make that quick transition. We already know we had hundreds of thousands of emails filed through Newforma already into our projects, but now how do we deal with that? How do we work with that? And how do we get past the challenge of being able to pull that information back? We knew we were fine on the other functions, and we didn't have to pay a premium with our other existing systems. A lot of companies are moving to much more collaborative ways of working. File transfers or traditional FTP isn't going away, but we're looking at things like Microsoft Teams and other ways to work in files. But that email filing piece, especially in an AEC practice, is hugely important, especially to when you get into a litigation situation, or if you get to there, and being able to pull all of that history and email back on a project. But this is where Mail Manager came in for us. We had talked to some of our industry peers and just doing our own research, and we actually heard about Mail Manager. So we started doing some digging, and we started to quickly realize that it was a highly regarded email filing solution. There are many, many other AEC practices using Mail Manager. It actually had a very similar filing method as Newforma does. A little bit more on that later about why Mail Manager is far superior to that. And it's actually a very easy transition for us. What was great about looking into a product is that this is actually very lightweight for us. We're not running a massive platform in the background to help one of the key features that we used in Newforma, which was email filing. Mail Manager did it all for us. And when we started looking more into and talking to not just Mail Manager themselves, but also talking to other AEC practices about what they liked about it, what worked really well for them, maybe what didn't work. And what we started to realize is that Mail Manager was that leader in the industry for us, and it was going to fill that gap that we knew that we needed to fill quickly. Email is, I'm not a fan of email, personally, being on the tech side, but it is a necessary evil. And being able to capture that and finding a way to easily transition into something to make that switch, to be able to come in and actually almost within a day or two, be able to start using the platform and have it be familiar was huge for us. Again, this was a very, very easy switch. when we reached out to Ideagen originally around, doing a trial, open arms, happy to help us. We actually ran a trial for a good amount of time, of just over a month there, and we had 25 or 30 of our users internally try out Mail Manager, and we had dedicated representatives to help us through that process. So it wasn't just like, okay, yeah, here, download the software and give it an install and email us if you have a question. There were dedicated representatives to help us through all of that process, and even through the training of the pilot itself that we ran. And throughout that process, from start to finish of that pilot, it was very dedicated from the Mail Manager side and the Dialog resources working together to say, is this going to work for us? Is this what we're actually going to be using? And it was a very seamless process. And one of the main reasons, and maybe to the detriment of Newforma, but we were able to use some of the existing, if not all of our existing email filing locations. We were able to basically point Mail Manager directly to that project directory. And now we have that index back of our email messages. We can do that search again. We can do that filtering. Email filing throughout the pilot when we were running it, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we received from our user base was, this is a lot faster than Newforma, and it's a lot faster to pull that search back up as well. It's very clean. The interface was easily understandable. If you've ever been in Newforma, it's very daunting to look at. Very daunting interface, a lot to see and a lot to filter out. Mail Manager keeps it simple, and our user base appreciated that. They were able to very easily and quickly capture what we were trying to do and why we were doing that. I will say, going from pilot into production, it took us a little bit longer on the Dialog side, only because of where our budgetary cycle ran. We did a trial about halfway through our budget cycle, and then when our new budget fiscal year came up, it was an easy decision for us to quickly drive in and say, yeah, we want to be able to use this product because it's going to meet all of our needs, and we're definitely going to be able to get utilization out of Mail Manager against all of the existing information. Again, back at the start, I mentioned we had solutions for everything else. Those were starting to already have an uptick, but mail management and mail filing and searchability is hugely important in this industry. And that really allowed us to drive adoption for this. Mail Manager wasn't difficult to adopt for our user base. It was like just another day for them because they'd already were familiar with email filing and why that was important. And because of that, this transition was very, very, very successful for us. We already had these habits instilled, right? So the easy adoption on the side of people were used to email filing, but as Lucy had mentioned, the prompting was huge for us. You're not going to miss that correspondence. You're not going to miss that ability to file that email, even if it is just a reminder. I'm on the tech side and I use Mail Manager. I file my emails appropriately where I need to. And believe it or not, when you hit that send button being prompted, sometimes you're like, do I really want to send that message? So sometimes it's a little bit handy to have that delay too, to say, do I have everything I need? And then file and send that email away. As I said, we were able to look at this holistically across the practice and go, email filing is no different than Newforma. We still have the ability to file to a project. We still have the ability to search a project, but the ability to reuse those locations and have Mail Manager just begin indexing of that information and be able to return that search results as of day one was huge for us. And one of the things that we wanted to really avoid, and it actually our user base was thrilled about this, is we did start with a pilot when we went down this road of adding our projects in as a global database. But we started to quickly realize that as much as that was useful, there's some people that are working on one project, especially on our larger projects, and that's all the location that they needed. So we actually made a switch. We said, okay, we'll let you add your locations. And the nice thing about this put the control back into our user base to actually continue driving adoption. They could go to that email folder and say, right click, add to my favorites. And it's now instantly there for them to start filing to and searching the existing messages that are there. So we were very, very quickly able to just increase adoption beyond what we were seeing in Newforma, which was huge. Again, we had hundreds of thousands of emails filed already that we didn't want to lose that history. And Mail Manager made it easy for us to bring that information back to our fingertips. And I think that's a testament to the application itself, is that we threw it up against a different system that did email filing, and we were able to pull that information back. So the additional metadata that we have available on our emails was huge for us, right? We're able to now do those keyword searches like we were before, but faster. Newforma is a hog in terms of resources. Even their email filing plugin was a hog, and it used up a lot of resources. And to say the least, it crashed a lot in Outlook. We don't have very many issues with Mail Manager crashing in Outlook at all, if any. It's stable, it runs quickly, and it gives people that ability to quickly file, quickly search, and those reminders are very, very, very big for us. I don't think any of this adoption would have been as successful if we didn't have, again, those dedicated resources from Ideagen. It was an amazing experience for us to be able to reach out when we had a problem, had a question, and actually have that ability to talk to somebody and say, how do we make this work? And again, that transition for us to say, instead of using a global project directory and allow people to add just the locations they were using, just again, it empowered our user base to want to file more because they didn't have to look at everything. They knew what they wanted to do, and they were very hyper focused. And not to say that others didn't want a large directory, but the challenge we had really was we run some very large projects, and some people just sit on those projects and want to be able to look at just that correspondence very, very quickly. And this gave that power back to them. And I think they were really thrilled to have that. And in the end, we were basically deploy the client, super easy to deploy the client with all of our customizations in place, saying, yeah, we want a prompt on file, we want a prompt on close email, those types of settings. And then people were off to the races. They knew what they were doing, literally within a 24-hour period of saying, hey, this is going to come through and we're going to start launching a product and we're going to use this to, now you're using it. Adoption started to skyrocket for us. And because it was so easy to use, because it was so simple to use, it made that transition super helpful for us. And email filing didn't really skip a beat. And we're still seeing that usage climb today. We're still seeing other departments actually now coming into us saying, we'd like to actually possibly start using this more now as well. So we didn't see that with Newforma. It was a very clunky application. Again, took care of the other functions. Mail managers served that really big need that we needed for mail management and for adoption, continued adoption of email filing best practices at Dialog. So very excited to share our story today about how we made this successful. And Lucy, thank you so much for giving me the time to tell our story as well.
Thank you so much, Kenny. That was really informative, and I think everyone on this call will kind of share that opinion. Lots of things I think to learn from, but also I think with any new system, when you're looking to swap a system, there's obviously going to be some hesitation there, and I think you kind of spoke quite nicely to how that transition might look. So I'm just going to go on to, as promised, the Q&A session as part of this webinar. So let me just grab it up. Okay. So we've got the first question is for you, Kenny. How long did you have Newforma before this changed? Did you not use any of the CA features such as submittals and RFIs?
Yeah, great question. So we had used Newforma for about 5 years, 4.5 or 5 years. We went through some Project Center upgrades at the time from the version that we were on. We did not use the CA module. One of the main reasons we didn't use the contract admin module was because in Canada, we do a function called progress claims, and it's not widely done in many other systems. We already had a dedicated contract admin application off to the side called Onward that we were using. So that function was not one that we needed to use. We did investigate using it, and we did try to work with Newforma on some of the functions we needed. But at the time on the Project Center version we were on, there was no real way to do a great transition into using it. So we continued to use Onware for our purposes. But we were on Newforma for quite a long time. But we never, as mentioned, could get the adoption where we needed it to be to help justify those rising costs.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that question. You've got another one here, which is how did you replace Newforma Global Search?
Yeah, so we replaced Newforma's global search with a separate application. It's actually made by Nasuni. It's called Access Anywhere. It was recently acquired. The original company name was called Storage Made Easy, but Access Anywhere is the new branded version when Nasuni bought them last year, and it's a web-based search into your projects. So we did a massive transition that we were already planning on our storage infrastructure and went into a Nasuni environment and basically tacked on the web interface that does a whole lot of other functions, including the info exchange functions of being able to send files, but it actually replaced that search function. It's a fully indexed search, same as Newforma does it. And it's really, really robust, and we're really starting to see a lot of value out of that.
Thanks, Kenny. I don't know if this links to that, but we've got, what did you replace info exchange with?
Yeah, and just to touch on info exchange a little bit, because one of the features that we really did love was obviously knowing when somebody downloaded a file, not just opened it. Access Anywhere gives a ability as well when somebody goes and downloads a file and the expirations associated with it. We also still have pockets of OneDrive out there for file transfers, as well as Microsoft Teams sites. As I had mentioned prior as well, is a lot of our industry is working more collaborative spaces. So the ability to work live in a document versus just sending is becoming more and more prevalent. Again, file transfer is never going to go away, but Access Anywhere gave us that ability alongside OneDrive and Teams as well when we needed it.
Excellent, thank you. I think this is a Mail Manager one. We're still filing into Outlook public folders. Is there also a good transition / migration path from public folders to Mail Manager? So the answer to that is yes. We do have an option to kind of migrate emails from public folders to your server project folders, for example. Mail Manager is not designed to do that. We have it as an add-on to help and assist customers. So yes, we'd be more than happy to discuss that. But we've got loads of customers that were ex-public folder users. So hopefully that answers the question, Michael. Kenny, with regards to, we get this question a lot when we speak to people that have got Newforma or other kind of bigger document management systems is, when you go and to leadership and you're kind of saying, look, this isn't working for us, we need Mail Manager, and the kind of feedbacks, well, hang on, we've paid for this, and just crack on and use it. What did you guys do to try and get kind of buy-in from leadership to get this approved and signed off?
It was actually a pretty simple process on our end for that, primarily because, again, with the rising costs of Newforma and how expensive it was and the lack of use of a lot of the modules, with the exception of email filing, we were very easily able to go back to leadership and say, here's the usage statistics. We are utilizing a lot more email filing out of Newforma than anything else. Now, here's a replacement coming in, which was Mail Manager. And the great thing about Mail Manager from a cost perspective for us is it was a way smaller cost. As I said, we'd already started investing in solutions for the other modules. So those were already signed off and ready to go. We weren't tacking on a large cost in order to maintain email filing. And for those in the AEC industry, being able to find that one email, if you are in litigation, that can help save you from going through the whole process. The first time that happens, any email filing solution is worth its weight in gold. And I can tell you, we've been able to do that with Mail Manager, find that email that, oh, here was that decision that was made. Here's why it was made, and save a whole lot of time down the road. So leadership was already on board with the fact that we still needed to continue email filing, and the fact that we'd already had a solution that we're coming forward with to them to say, here's what we want to replace it with, and here's why, and here's the results of the pilot that we ran. It was a very easy decision to sign off on.
Excellent. Thanks, Kenny. Kind of, I suppose, slight Mail Manager question. So where are the emails actually filed to? So I guess for Kenny's example, they're going to the existing folders that were the Newforma folders. But with Mail Manager, you've got lots of options. So we integrate into SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, Viewpoint, Procore, lots of different options there. So if there's any in particular that you guys are using that you want more information on, we can absolutely go through that. Also, is there a way to file emails using distribution groups? I don't think so. I probably need to see how that would look within your environment, and then advise from there on how we could maybe have a workaround there. Okay, and then there's a question on the trial side of things, Kenny. How did you choose who to trial Mail Manager, and what was your process in terms of collating feedback?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So in terms of choosing individuals for it, we were able to reach out to a lot of our project manager group because those are the ones that are leading projects in that initiative to file email for them. We also grabbed a lot of our usage statistics from Newforma of our top filing users to say, hey, we want to see what this looks like for you. So it was very simple to do that. In terms of collecting feedback, because the training was simple and the tool is really simple to use, after a couple of weeks, we actually just sent out a Microsoft Form survey to say, hey, how does this compare to Newforma? You know, was the filing better or worse? Is the search better or worse? And we just kind of compared it up against the existing solution. And what we found is that people preferred, over 90% of them actually, if I recall correctly, preferred Mail Manager's filing system over Newforma's. So it was a very easy way to just collect feedback. We also got everybody onto a call to get what we call the good, the bad, and the ugly after we gathered the survey results. And we didn't get a lot of bad or ugly. We got a lot of good, positive feedback for it.
Thanks, Kenny. I think that's all the questions for now. I'll give it literally 20 more seconds in case anyone's got any more questions, but lots of really, interesting ones coming through. And I hope that the responses that we've given are helpful, and will help you in your process if you are looking to move. Hey, looks like there's no more questions. Well, big thank you, Kenny. Thank you so much for doing that today. Extremely helpful, very, very useful. Yeah, hopefully everyone else enjoyed it as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, everybody.
See you later. Bye.